We're live. We're live. Welcome back to another episode of Holin None. I'm joined by Danny Business, the one and only,
What's going on?
as well as Hayden Highties, the one and only,
The one, the only.
and myself, Shanky Watts, coming at you. We had a pretty great week, actually. Fantastic week. Lots of news. Canadian Open ended up being a fantastic tournament. I think one of the best I've enjoyed all year. The last 2 days were amazing. We also had Liv acquire the PGA, so that's been very interesting. So we'll get into that a little bit. But before we do, boys, I got to ask you both a question. Are we excited for the U.S. Open next week?
Very excited. It looks like it's going to be a really tough course. Field looks amazing. I don't know how it's going to stand up against the Canadian Open, but we'll see.
I think it'll shit all over the Canadian Open. I think it's going to be amazing. I don't know, for some reason, and I don't know about you boys, but when I know a major's coming up in the next week or so, I'm frothing it. I can't wait. I can't sleep all week. I think about it all week. All I look forward to on the weekend.
Definitely going to be some early mornings for us this next weekend, and then we go straight from that into Origin on the Wednesday. So we've got a big week. Me and you, Simon, for sure.
It's Origin next week.
It's the week after, yeah. So we're going to have a few sleepless nights.
It's fine. That's fine.
One good thing about the majors is the fields are so big and it's so slow that we get really early tee times. So they usually, we almost get like 12 hours, 13 hours worth of golf coverage. So
easily. And I watch it before bed and wake up to see the finale. Like it's great.
There's nothing better than going to sleep thinking someone's doing really well and then waking up and they've just completely shit themselves and they've lost like 7 or 8 strokes. I think
are you having flashbacks to Hideki?
To Hideki, yeah. I'm thinking about this course is going to be that course, right? Like I sent you guys that video of them dropping balls into the rough from knee height and you couldn't see the ball anymore. Imagine if it's coming from 80 yards in the air straight down. How that's going to look if Tommy hits the ball like he was at the back end of the tournament today.
Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. We don't need to talk bad about Tommy yet. But before we get into everything, I think we're going to do another trivia to start. This time, Danny Business is going to take over and ask us some questions. Today, it's Hayden Highties versus Shanky Watts.
Yep. So we're going to do it the same as last week. So, yeah, I think this is cool. So the winner gets to host the next week's trivia, right? So I was just going to do it on the winner like we did last week, but I felt like there was a bit too much that could be researched. So I got 5 questions. If you can message me your answers on Messenger, that would be great. So kicking off for the first question, Tommy Fleetwood has 0 PGA wins. How many DP or European wins does he have? Boys sending their answers through. All right, so we've got Shanky coming in with 3 and Hayden coming in with 6. The right answer is, in fact, 6. So that's one for your boy, one for your boy Hayden.
It's one more than last week.
More than last week, that's right. Surprised you didn't get that one there, Shanky. All right, I'm going to give you guys.
Hey, and if he was playing on DP last season, he would have like 14.
Yep, that's right. Well, this season even. All right, I'm going to give you guys 3 names. All right, and I need you guys to tell me, so A, B, or C, which one is not a Canadian golfer. Right, so 3 names, A, B, and C. Which one is not a Canadian golfer? So we've got A is Sebastian Cermak, B is Nick Watney, and C is Daniel Kim. So Sebastian Cermak, Nick Watney, or Daniel Kim? Got my answer through from Hayden. So Sebastian Cermak is in fact Canadian, unfortunately for you, Hayden.
I knew that.
Daniel Kim is also another classic Canadian name, and Nick Watney, Mr. Shanky Watts, coming in with clutch, getting the point.
I didn't know the last one if Kim was or not, but I knew you'd go with the whitest name possible and try to make it seem like That
I thought you guys might see through that. Yeah. All right. Adam Hadwin he's played in 20 PGA events and made 15 cuts. What was his highest finish this year? Closest to the mark gets it. Adam Hadwin.
That's tough.
So we've got Shanky Watts coming in at T10, and Hayden Heighty's coming in at 5. He came second in the Zurich. If you remember back to Zurich, he came second. He actually had 2 seconds, I think.
I remember he did well in the tournament, but I didn't think he came second.
Yeah, no, he definitely did.
Another good guy.
All right.
Does anyone get that point or nah? That's a
yes. I said closest to gets it. So Hayden's winning 2-1 with 2 questions to go. So, which brand sponsors Corey Connors? Which golfing brand?
Easy
and
money.
you both came straight with
Easy
the pig.
money.
Yep, you got it. Although on the Canadian golfing website, the official Canada golf website, he's listed as being under Titleist. So Canada might need to update there.
Interesting.
Yeah, but he's definitely ping because he wears a big ping hat. So there you go. That's 1 point each. So Simon, you need this last one. Adam Hadwin. So if he was not a golfer, there's going to be a multi-choice question. If he was not a golfer, what would he be according to his bio? Would he be A, a chef, B, a high school hockey coach, or C, a Mountie? So would he be a chef, a hockey coach, or a Mountie? We've got Hayden's answer through. Waiting for Mr. Shanky Watts. He's thinking hard on this one.
That's what I would have. That's what I would have been if I wasn't here.
So Shanky would have been a Mountie. You've shanked that one right into the water, and Hayden's given us chef, which is the correct answer.
Yeah, chef was obvious, man. I didn't.
He looks like chef. You know what?
Yeah, chef was obvious. I was gonna say it, but it was like.
So Hayden takes this one out. Hayden, you're hosting it next week, and it'll be me taking on Mr. Shanky. So there you go. Back to you, Mr. Watts.
Yes, I'm just swooning over that my loss. Okay. Well, after that, I guess we could get into the Canadian Open. This week's winner, Nick Taylor, a great Canadian. Canadians haven't won in 69 years. I think they said that fact about 1 million times. I don't know why it sticks, but it does. Second place was not Adam Hadwin, although you would have thought after all the news about him today, getting tackled after the win. Yeah. But Tommy Fleetwood in the playoff with him ended up coming second. Tommy, my boy, I'm always backing him. It was great to see him play well. We'll get into how he played on the last hole. Yes, I agree. Danny Business. We've already had a little pre-chat about this, but we'll get into that. Before we do get into it, though, we're going to go over to Hayden Heighty's and do a couple little stats.
Yeah, cool. Just the usual ones again. Do driver accuracy, strokes gained, approach to the green, and putting. There's a bit of a trend with the winner obviously being good at putting, but Nick Taylor, 14th off the tee, 6th approach green, and 10th putting, which is just all round like very similar to Brooks's stats when Brooks won the major. Just very good at everything. Fleetwood, 36th off the tee, 31 approach, which is like quite bad for him because he's an extremely good ball striker, and first putting. So it's rare that someone down as low as 10th actually takes out the win with putting. But I feel like that's over the competition regulation, not including the long putt that he made, for example. And then obviously in comparison, you've got Rory, first strokes gained off the tee, but 50th in accuracy. So this is one of those courses that you actually didn't need to be straight off the tee or on the fairway, unless you're Aaron Rai, in which case you're first. So going to Aaron Rai, first off the tee, strokes gained, 4th approach green, and 48th putting. So he was close. He was really close to taking this whole thing out if he could just get a couple of putts down. And the weirdest one ever is actually Justin Rose. Probably should have won this. 9th off the tee accuracy, 14th approach green, 13th putting. Just all around really good.
I've been I said it last week. Justin Rose has been playing really well. Like I was thinking about taking him last week in my picks.
Man, he is a really, really rounded golfer at the moment, and it wouldn't surprise me if he wins something. I don't know what it is, and I don't know whether he can do it. I don't know if like this week won't suit him. This week won't suit him, but
he was doing so well yesterday, but then on the 8th today he had to re-tee, right? He lost his ball, re-teed into the rough again.
Yeah.
Got like a double bogey, and then it was just like game over from there.
Yeah. I think he still finished like what 15th or something. Or...
He finished 8th.
There you go. So
he
sort of hung
he was
on.
Still there. Yeah, he birdied the last.
So
Rory
I have
just wasn't there, but he was sort of Rory wasn't there with stats, but he just threatens. He threatens being around.
Did you say he was first off the tee? Is that what you said?
He was first off the tee in strokes gained.
Yeah.
But 50th in accuracy.
Is that because he just drives it so much further than everybody else? Like I think we had a chat this morning. Like he drives it so far, which is so great, and then he pulls out a pitching wedge. Others are using a 7, but he just couldn't control his short wedges. It made no sense to me. Rory should be able to control those. That was the one we spoke about this morning where he drove right down to the green, a small pitching wedge in, and he just sent it well over the back.
Yeah, I think this week was either going to one of two ways for Rory, especially after the news. I thought he was personally going to come out firing and blitz the field. I had this feeling.
Well, he did, didn't he? He was first in putting after the first 2 days, because I said that in commentary a few times, and then he just went back to what he's been doing. And
he had a bad 4th day this time, which is unusual for Rory. Now, with that, I feel like I've had this conversation with someone about Rory and his wedges before, but I can't remember. But I'll leave that. I have a thought about these stats, right? These strokes gained, all this stuff. How does it take into account? So say, for example, the Justin Rose situation where his stats look great, but we know he had a really bad hole. Whatever happened, something out of the ordinary happened, and he had a shit hole, and it lost him, potentially the tournament, right? If something like that. How much do the stats reflect that? I'm just curious. I don't really know. I'm actually asking the question. I don't know if you know.
Pure percentages, fairways hit versus possible fairways. Like it's just pure numbers versus numbers. And like, yeah, I mean, you give him 2, maybe 3 strokes back. Where does he finish? It's just one hole that wrecked him. So
I think it probably doesn't like it would if he's lost his first ball, right? That would just be like he didn't hit that fairway according to those stats, right? So if his second drive would almost not count for those stats, is what I would think.
Well, it's the amount of strokes you lose. It's the amount of strokes you lose for, right? So I'm just wondering.
I was talking about accuracy, but yeah.
So I'm just wondering, and I'm sure it does account for it, maybe. But I'm just curious, like if you have one big hole, one really bad hole, like for example Fleetwood. I don't know how his stats look, but we all know he was lucky to get par on that last hole and take it to a playoff. I do wonder if, looking at his stats, it looks like he dominated the field and should have won easily, and then he has a bad hole like that. I'm just curious. I don't know if it actually has an effect or not.
That's why I'm very selective with driver accuracy opposed to strokes gained off the tee. Is 2 very different things, because Rory won strokes gained off the tee, but to me that doesn't mean anything. Like I'd much rather see driver accuracy who's actually hitting fairways and things like that, because it kind of reflects distance a lot more, and it's not really doesn't really tell us anything. So further to what Dan was saying. So
well, beyond just the stats, what do we actually think about the Canadian Open? I already came out and said I thought it was one of the best tournaments of the year, but I'm happy to get your thoughts as well, boys.
It's been one of the best. Definitely the best non-elevated event, but it would stand up against the elevated events. The field was pretty strong, and even though the field wasn't as strong, I felt like everyone like the people who were in contention, it was fun to watch. The Canadians singing the national anthem, the rink hole, the Tyrrell and Tommy Fleetwood. How often in a PGA event do we get the top 5 guys? None of them are from America.
Yeah.
I think that in itself was a nice change.
I think in the top 10, 5 or 6 of them were from the UK.
Well, the first 5 players were all from outside of America, and then T6 and T9 were Americans. Apart from that, it was all other countries. So it's just a nice little change. And then obviously in the end of the day, seeing the Canadian take it out was good. But I personally was cheering for Tommy. But
I was I was torn, right? I
just felt like he deserved to win. I felt like he's been working on it for so long, and he looked like, we can talk about it when we get to Tommy, but like from that 18th hole onwards, he just looked like his hat was crooked. He was struggling. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but he had his hat slightly too far to one side, and he looked like a bit of a doofus. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, he's not winning this playoff.
I didn't notice that, to be honest. I was concentrating on the game, but for me it was hard because I'm obviously a fan of Canadian golf, but Nick Taylor is not one of my favorite Canadian golfers. Like Adam Hadwin, Mackenzie Hughes, and Corey Connors take the cake for me, and Mike Weir, obviously, it was great to see him make the cut. That was a surprise. I did not expect that over Mackenzie Hughes. But I thought, I wanted to back the hometown. Like you have the entire country behind Nick during that time, and it was hard not to support that. But for all the fans listening to the pod, and the huge quantities of fans know that I am a Tommy Fleetwood fan, and I think he's an exceptional human being. I think he deserves to win. I cannot believe he hasn't won on the PGA yet. I think he's got a great ball. Like, I know he's got a unique, but I think it's a great way he strikes the ball. And I think he deserves to win. And even at the end of the tournament, I think I sent you guys that post. He's just fully congratulating Nick, takes it humbly and says, time to get back to work. Like, he's just such a humble dude, and I just want to see him do well.
Look, a couple of things on all of that. I think this event was fantastic. It was a real slow burn at the start. I'm not going to throw it out there. Honestly, the first day and a bit was tough. It was a hard watch, especially since it was really heavily weighted. I think the early session was heavily weighted, and then the afternoon and day two. So watching the start of day two was really hard because it was just a whole bunch of like no-name guys, really, which is hard in one of these events because that's what the field reflects. On the Fleetwood stuff, he is one of the good guys, all that. I don't have any pity for any of them, especially in a 4-hole playoff. Both of them had chances to take that easily.
Yeah.
Easily. And
more so Tommy.
Well, I was gonna say Tommy is the only one who had chances for all 3 holes. Like Nick kept missing his putts, and it was open for Tommy just to sink.
And Tommy was in the rough and all kinds of stuff, and they're both saving, and like both of them kind of forgot just to go out and play golf there. So I don't know. I don't have any pity for anybody that didn't win that. It was there to be taken, and I feel like if it was Rory versus either of those two, he would have mopped them up easily, no problem.
First hole.
In that kind of arena, I guess.
In a pressure situation.
Yeah, 100%. Good on Nick Taylor. Good on Tommy for being there, but like he didn't get it done, and he can only go back to the driving range, I guess.
If we talk about Tommy now, then I felt like he threw the win away, standing on the 18th, only to get a birdie on a hole that's like really should be eagle birdies, and he birdied every other day of the tournament. He got into that the rough, and he made the choice to lay up, which I was saying I was saying lay up. You should just lay up, don't take it on. I know the commentators were saying the opposite, but I was saying he's such a good iron player. If he just lays up on the fairway, puts one in near the hole, he should be able to birdie it. And then he's absolutely duffed it off to the right. And then even in the playoff holes, he was always on the back foot. He had opportunities to win every single one of those playoff holes and just missed the putt, especially that 9th par 3 where he got the line from Nick, and then just had to putt just a tiny little bit off the fringe and just pulled it like it was just a straight pull, and had been putting so well all tournament. I think that Tommy definitely threw it away. And I always talk about how I like to watch golfers go out and win a competition. Neither of these, I mean, obviously Nick won it with that eagle putt in the end, right? But
which was amazing.
Tommy had 4 chances, including the 18th. He had 4 chances to win this tournament, and he should have taken all 4 of them.
I agree. I think Tommy had plenty of opportunity. I think all he had to do was basically get a birdie on the last hole, which seemed to be easy for most people. Like every time the commentators went to the 18th, one like almost every player was either getting a birdie or getting a close to an eagle. So what's that? I thought he'd get a birdie there on last hole easy, but yeah, he just I think he just started to think too much. He looked at the leaderboard maybe, and things just changed. I thought he might, because other people were hitting like 3 woods off the tee on the 18th.
He doesn't have one. that's the problem. So this was the other thing I was going to say about him. He was so far back off the tee because he was using a 4-iron. He was so far back. He's only got driver and mini driver, and he doesn't have a 3-wood. So he kept using the 4-iron, and he was so far back that when he was in the rough, he just completely messed himself up. If he was in the fairway, he could still make it, but he's getting himself a 250, 270 shot. So, why is he not? I don't know how far that mini driver goes. I don't know if anyone else who carries a mini driver, but
do you know who bought mini drivers in? Was Phil Mickelson. They're about 11, 12 degrees, and then you hit them. They're like a gap between the two.
I mean, he's shown us he could birdie that
could just
hole
call it a 2-wood.
He birdied that hole every day.
That's what Phil calls it.
Yeah, it should just be a 2-wood.
Yeah. Sorry, Karen.
He birdied that hole every day this week, so he obviously had a plan for the 18th.
Yeah.
And he just didn't execute it on the final day when it really, really mattered, right? That's when he decided to throw it away. So
which is sad because he was playing
pressure,
well enough to he was making other big putts. He was making other birdies. He's making them when it counted on the last day, even though he could probably see the leaderboard and see that he wasn't, he was behind, Nick was ahead, or Terrell finished with a great 63, I think, to finish and
64.
Put him 64. Yeah.
Yeah. He went 72, 64, 72, 64.
He's
it's rocks and diamonds.
He's a roller coaster, that guy. We love him. Fan of the pod.
Yeah.
So I love that. It's a bit sad to see. But I'm happy with the result. A four-hole playoff, seeing it go on, seeing them obviously miss, just making pars and no one really getting birdies and no one making the opportunities count. Yes, you think they should, but at the same time, it was still very exciting because it went to another hole and you're excited to see what happened. The massive eagle putt to win was amazing. I never expected Nick to make that. That was surprising. I thought he was going to put it close. I thought Tommy would miss the birdie putt and then he'd tap it in for eagle for the win. I thought he'd still win after that hole, but it was amazing to see him sink the eagle. That, if you want to talk about going out and winning it, I know it was the fourth hole, but that is going out and winning it on the fourth hole. Now, the other side of that was the confusion after when Adam Hadwin got absolutely mangled by that security guard.
So I saw Adam Hadwin standing with Corey Connors.
Yeah.
Did Corey get through?
I don't know.
So
Corey get through the line? So he's running down. Corey's a big guy, right? Running downhill. Hadwin got caught up in the defensive line. That's all it is.
Well, I think Hadwin also got the champagne out to spray on him. I don't know if Corey had any or not, but Hadwin did, and he was spraying it on him. And I think the security just thought he was some fan. Because to be fair, he looks like your typical Canadian, just big, massive beard, just long, luscious hair. It's just he probably just thought he was some fan coming out to celebrate with him.
Probably thought he was like Live Golf supporter with the champagne and the big celebration.
Absolutely.
And the happiness.
Which is odd because I thought they incorporated because Liv acquired PGA. I thought they were incorporating the champagne from that event just to kind of start to merge it all together.
What do we think about players I hate that Nick Taylor's family wasn't there, and it happened to who was the last guy? Denny, was it Denny? His family?
Park. No, it was Wyndham Clark,
Wyndham
wasn't
Clark.
it?
Yeah, and he was, first thing to say is, I wish my family was here. But that's the reality, right, of these mid-tier golfers. It costs them. They don't make the cut. They're down. They don't have the $100 million, Nike sponsorships of Rory to bring, mum, dad, the dog, everybody else over from Ireland. They can't fly their family in every weekend.
Nick Taylor has won $14 million. I think he'd get his family there if he really wanted to.
Yeah.
So I don't buy that.
He's won 3 times, but I am surprised actually because this is the Canadian. Unless he lives with his entire family in the U.S.
He lives in the U.S. Yeah.
But his whole family, all his relatives,
his
grandparents,
wife and that
parents.
Maybe his wife just didn't want to go. Maybe she was like, Rory's going to win.
Well, apparently she was dealing with a toddler, and she said she couldn't make it.
She had a crisp 100 on Rory.
Yeah. Speaking of Rory, Live Golf merging with PGA. I'm very interested.
It's not a merger, mate. It's not a merger.
Yeah. Sorry. Live acquired PGA. The PIF.
It's got nothing to do with it, mate. Live's a standalone entity, according to Greg.
Supported and owned by the PIF, who now own PGA. And I would actually, the whole premise that PGA is still running that, I don't agree with. I think they're now owned by the Saudis. I think it's just like the Liv's owned by the
own
Saudis.
a portion of a different company that also works with the PGA, right? Like the PGA they don't have shares in the PGA.
The PIF own the commercial entity that's funding pretty much every single tournament. So yes, they own the PGA.
But the PGA Tour is a members organization that stays off to the side, not for profit, that remains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And supposedly they'll still make all the decisions,
right,
but I don't think it's going to be true.
When the best example is when Liv threw $150 million at Cameron Smith, the PGA can't go, oh, here's $50 million, just stay, because it was not for profit. But now with this new entity, they technically could, because it has the ability to buy, to do things like raise capital and invest and things like that, which they didn't per se. What does it mean? I don't know what it means, to be honest. I honestly think that in the weirdest way possible, Dan's kind of right. I reckon that Liv isn't going to exist anymore because the Saudis don't care anymore, because all they wanted was their money to be invested in golf, and they had to go around the world to make a whole new league. They've got what they wanted.
Yeah, they don't want to run a league. They don't want to have to put on events. They just want to give money to somebody else to do it, to make themselves look good. Liv, I mean, here's a question: how long does Liv last? How many more seasons does Liv have before it's gone?
I think this is it. This will be the end of the season.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's disagreeing with that.
They say it in black and white. They're going to, at the end of the season, it's going to finish, and then they're going to evaluate the place for team golf. They'll do something. They'll do something.
But I don't think anyone's disagreeing with the fact that Liv is gone next year. I think this whole
one person is Greg.
Yeah, well, Greg is not a fan of the pod, and he's not going to be on anytime soon. But I think we're all agreeing with you, Dan, that Liv will be gone next year. Like, I don't think
I'm not agreeing with Dan. Dan said it was gone for many other reasons that wasn't this.
No. So let's back up. Dan
I said it will fade away right the way.
We've had conversations with Danny Bidness about this already, and we all agree the same thing, that now that the Saudis own the PGA, that they don't care about Liv, it'll go away. I agree with that. I don't disagree with that. Now, to go back about Dan saying Liv would finish itself off in the next year, or even last year when this hadn't happened, I didn't agree with, because
they're going to lose all their players to the PGA, and when Greg tries to take them to court over contracts and things like that, who do you think's who's paying this contract, right? The PIF.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Because they've got contracts to live, right? All these players.
This is the thing. Hold on. This is the bit where you've missed the point. Their contracts are PGA contracts. The PGA owns that now. They are a joint entity owners
of Liv.
No, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
but are the contracts with Liv or are the contracts with PIF?
That the PGA has like 80% ownership over, and the PIF has like 20%. So technically, the PGA owns Liv.
Yes.
It's going to be interesting to see how they resolve the whole money issue. Like, who's going to get what? Who's going to have to pay fines for what? There was I can't remember who said it, but there was something about, some of those guys haven't necessarily got all their money from these big contracts yet anyway, because they're 4-year contracts. So they might have got 2 years worth of that money. So who's to know how much the exact dollar value is for all these guys?
If there's a contract, it's a contract, and if the league falls over, then they still have to honor the contract and pay them. Unless
the people who are paying that contract also earn the other thing.
Well, yeah, then that would be a renegotiation of the contract, right? A contract is a contract. They can't go out of it unless the Liv folds and goes bankrupt and says they can't pay them. But that wouldn't make any sense because it's funded by the same organization that's now funding the PGA.
I think, to be honest, though, like, out of this whole thing, it's only the top 1% that even matter. Like, when the guys left to go to Liv, the top 1% got paid, and then the guys that were remaining, the top 1% got paid, and then when it comes back together, the top 1% are going to get paid again, and your Sergios and all these other guys, like, they're just going to disappear. Like, and like, who's like Van Wiesberger or whoever these other guys are that are filling out that 48-man field are just gone. Doesn't matter.
What I'm most interested in is who's going to come back. Who's actually going to get their PGA card and come back, or some of them just going to retire. Will Phil come back?
At the cost of who, though? That's the other nothing. Like, I feel bad for some of these guys who have now earned their card while these live guys have been gone. They're gonna lose their spot now because these guys who betrayed the league are going to come back. But they're going to make pathways. It's not going to be that easy.
Well, they did say on the announcement. They did say on the announcement they'd have to re-earn their PGA Tour status. They weren't just going to get their PGA card back for nothing.
But they'll find a way to make it work. Like, they're not.
I think they said there would be a panel that some would be automatically accepted back in.
It'll be like Brooks, 100%. DJ, 100%.
Yeah. Anyone who said something bad on Twitter and stuff, they're the ones who will
Sergio,
have to earn
Poulter,
their way
all
back.
of them gone.
Yeah.
Like,
well, they'll go to DP, right?
Well, actually Poulter's one I'm not sure, because Poulter's still, I don't know. He's got still a big fan base. I don't know, and he's friends with all those guys. Well, I know he had a tiff with Rory on the putting green, but I'm pretty sure he's still friends with all those guys. So it'll be interesting to see if people like that. I don't think Poulter should come back. I think his days are done, like join the Champions League. But I'd be curious if he came back. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's say.
I think what's actually going to be really interesting is not the PGA or LIV, is going to be how the DP World Tour recovers, because they're going to have an influx of all these players again, better players, the ones that we used to watch, and they've had the most, like, their legal action's been quite yucky, and that tour has suffered financially. So that's going to be really interesting.
How funny is it that we spoke about this and literally said, like, oh,
just gonna ride it out.
What's the PGA gonna do to fix DP? And we were like, oh, it's not their problem. And now they're coming in and they're fixing DP. It's great.
Yeah. I think the one thing I'm looking forward to is watching HV3 win all the off-week events. Come in and slay some average golfers on the Mexico Open next year.
HV. To be honest, I think there's certain individuals like HV3, DJ, who will be welcome back with open spot. But to go back what you're saying about all those guys who earned it and now are going to lose their spots, for some of them, they only got in because those people weren't there, and now they're coming back, and they are the best players in the world, right? They are the best players in the world. You can't argue with that. So they need to play better, I guess, right? That's the whole argument.
There's guys like Harry Higgs that should be Greg Norman's biggest fan, because he lost his tour card and he's getting in on sponsors exemptions and all that kind of shit. He wouldn't be in any of these fields if those LIV guys were here. So Harry Higgs, who is actually just having a bit of a form resurgence, played really well this weekend. He would be working in a pro shop somewhere if it wasn't for LIV. So
he'd be great in a pro shop, though. He'd be a fun time.
He'd be great.
The guys that you're talking about at the bottom end with their PGA cards, you're right. It's like when a team signs a new quarterback or something, right? They have to earn their spot. They have to outplay them to keep their card. So I'm happy for that too. Like, if you've got a card now, you've got to keep it by playing good.
Yeah.
And if you play well enough, you'll keep it, because that's just the nature of the game.
Yep, I agree. All right. Well, on that, I think it's been a fantastic discussion about golf so far, but I think now it's time to get to the picks, the US Open picks, the big picks, baby.
The bets, let's jump into it. We'll quickly recap last week, because we actually had the most wins that we've had since it began. So that's good. We had Hayden Heighties picked the top Canadian as Nick Taylor, who was actually paying really well, so paying $750. We had Rhodes come in with the T20, and we had Hatton and Fleetwood obviously come in with the T10. So were able to win some money back. Unfortunately for me, the Hatton pick didn't get me. I still had a net loss, so I'm $99 down. Mr. Shanky Watts is $15.20 down. So you managed to make some of that. Well, you still lost a bit, but Fleetwood got you 21. And Hayden's halved his negative, so you were negative 110. Now he's negative 51. So managed to split that straight in half. So this week for the US Open, we're doing it a little bit differently. We're going to have 6 different bets. We're going to go with the outright winner. We're going to go with the T5. And we're going to throw in a multi at T40, T30, T20. We're going to pick our top US golfer. We're going to pick someone to miss the cut. And then we're all going to pick 3 different players to hit a hole-in-one. And if one of our players hits that hole-in-one, we'll get paid out on that player. But it only costs us 1 bet.
We're doing a T5.
Yep, we're doing a T5 as well. So by the sounds of that, you're not going to go first. So we'll throw it over to Mr. Hayden Heighties to start us off then, since I started us last week. What do you got?
Cool. Where do you want me to start?
Just start it wherever you want and work your way up or down.
All right. Well, we're going to start with top US golfer and T5. For me, it's Scotty Scheffler. I already said he's going to win this tournament. like 2 months ago. So he's both
Scotty
those
for
spots,
both,
Scotty.
sorry?
Yep,
Yep,
Scotty for
yep.
both. I think that he's just off the tee, approach green is just. I'm assuming in the last 2 weeks he's learned how to putt, so he wins. Scotty wins.
Sure.
T20, I'm going to go Cam Smith.
Mm-hmm.
T30, DJ. Really good history of US Opens there. And T40, my wild card, Bryson DeChambeau.
So DeChambeau for 40.
Yep.
Right, so we go Bryson for 40, DJ for 30, and Cam for
20.
Yeah, all right. The DJ and Bryson's. I mean, that should be a safe pick with DJ at least. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm gonna go miscut, and I hate to do it to my boy. He's everyone's favorite, but Tony Finau is not making the cut.
Yeah.
Tony Finau. So, and then for Holin One, I'm purely going off stats here. Ricky Fowler loves a hole in one. And then I've gone for two guys who are the best ball strikers, Morikawa and Scotty.
Morikawa and Scotty.
Morikawa gets a feature.
Scotty's only had one, hasn't he?
Sorry?
Scotty's only had one hole in one, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, he's the best ball striker, and
So
apparently that's what you need to do to hit par threes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work. You don't get one every 10 years. That you get it when it comes.
I'm ready now, by the way.
Yeah, okay. And then you've got your outright winner?
Scotty.
Okay, so we've got a lot of Scotty. So I said
Scotty 2 months ago. I'm not going back.
Okay, we're sticking to that. Cool. So we got 890s has got Scotty outright, Scotty T5, Bryson, DJ, and Cam for 40, 30, 20 respectively. Scotty is the top US. Finau's missing the cut, unfortunately. And we've got Fowler, Morikawa, and Scotty for the hole in one. So good picks there. What about yourself, Shanky?
So I did say Sam Burns would win this tournament. I'm not pulling back on that, but I am going to give another outright winner pick for this event. Sam could still win. He's not trending in a winning way, but potentially he could. All right, so I'm going to start with my three players to get a hole in one.
Okay.
So Shane Lowry, I'm going to pick him if we're doing a hole in one, I'm going to pick him every time.
Yeah.
Number two, I got Jason Day. I think Jason Day will come. I don't think he'll win, but I think he'll come and make the fans happy and put one in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, similar to Hayden, have Colin Morikawa. I think he's gonna make an appearance and get a hole in one, even if he doesn't win.
Fair enough.
Now to miss the cut, I've got Wyndham Clark. I think that guy's got something going on in his head after his win, and I don't think he's gonna make the cut.
Fair enough.
Now, my top US golfer, my T40, T30, T20. I got in the T40, I got Sam Bennett.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
My T30, I got Adam Scott. My T20, I got Keegan Bradley, KB.
Oh, KB was so close to being Finau, missed the cut.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nah. Keegan's gonna come out and he's gonna play. He loves a major.
Yeah.
Top US golfer, Ricky Fowler.
Wow.
I think this is Ricky's time to shine. I'm hoping he brings it. T5, the one and only Tommy Fleetwood. Backed him every week. Not going to stop now. An outright winner. The way this course plays, you got to be good around the greens, especially if you miss. Got to go with Cameron Smith. Cameron Smith supporting an Aussie.
Yep.
I think I have an Aussie in almost every pick that isn't a US pick or a miss the cut pick. So, yeah.
Very nice.
I'm pretty happy with that.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I'm going to start with my outright, and I'm sticking to Rahm, who I said a few months ago. No reason to back off the big man. So I'm going to keep him in there. My T5 is going to be Hovland. So I think Hovland's going to stick to his form. He's not going to quite win, but he's going to be there or thereabouts. My top US golfer is going to be DJ, because I did say that if a live golfer was going to win the US Open, it was going to be DJ. So I said a few months ago. My T40, T30, T20 is going to be Lowry for T40. For Lowry, T40, I've got Hatton is my T20, obviously, because I just pick Hatton every single week. And my T30 is going to be Mr. Minwoo Lee. Minwoo Lee for a big week, but he'll be there or thereabouts as well.
I wanted to put Minwoo in, but I couldn't quite fit him in with what I had going.
Yeah, I think he'll float. He'll float around. I've seen his TikTok be a bit more active. My hole in one, I had Lowry as well because I think Lowry is just a pretty good bet to hit a hole in one. I'm going to go Rahm after he chipped in the other day, and I've already got him to win. And I'm going to go Adam Scott for a hole in one. Talking about good ball strikers. And for me to miss the cut, I hate to do it to you, but Tommy Fleetwood's not making the cut.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I think after watching him at the back end of today,
head noise.
He's got his hats on sideways. He's not quite got it on straight. He's
the young man's got a fire in his belly. All right,
he's gonna miss the cut by. I'm gonna say he's gonna miss the cut by one stroke.
He's gonna be leader on the first day.
Yeah, and then he'll miss the cut by one stroke. There we go. So that's wrapping it up. We'll revisit that at the end of the week next week and see what the odds are.
Lovely. Awesome. Good picks, guys. Really excited. Stay tuned for the preview show on Wednesday. We'll get a bit more into the U.S. Open. We'll talk a bit more about that. But coming up next, we're going to Holin Out. It's our ending segment where we talk about kind of what's either been good or bad that we want to talk about in the last week. And this week, we're going to start with Danny Business.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, this week I'm holding out on having mates that have helpful jobs. So you guys have heard about Barry the Butcher. One of my son's best mate, his dad's a butcher. And I just want to say it's always good to have mates who have jobs that are helpful. So, we've got mates that are sparkies that will help us out around the house. But today I drove over to Barry's house, got a literal plastic bag full of meat. And I had one of the steaks for dinner tonight, and it was absolutely delicious. So shout out to A Place to Meat. That's Barry's new butcher shop in Newmarket, and the meat was fantastic. And I've got about 5 kilos of meat in a plastic bag in my fridge right now that I'll get through over the next week. So yeah, having mates with useful jobs, that's what I'm holding out on.
I thought you were gonna be like a Chippy or a Sparky or anything to help with the house, but you love your meats.
Mate, so he gave me he chucked in 2 steaks for me, thick cut Scotch fillets. I was supposed to have chicken for dinner tonight, but as soon as I saw that steak, I was like, can't go past it. Fried that bad boy up, sliced it up, had a bit of broccoli and some sweet potato, and gave me the energy I need to finish the pod.
Now, do you guys say fillets in New Zealand, or do you say fillet?
Fillet, unless it's a fillet of fish from McDonald's, and it's a fillet.
Very touche. Okay. All right, Hayden, high teas. What are you holding out on?
Yeah, mine is something that is been building over the last sort of month is my eye-opening adventure into working from home. I've gone a fair long few years of pretty much a 9 to 5 if I'm not seeing you, not working, which has been painful. And now I'm venturing into the whole work from home office. My office assistant is my dog who sits next door to me during the day. I get just as much done, if not more. I can log on early, have a coffee, pick the kids up early. The work-life balance is amazing. Play golf in the morning. My boss doesn't care as long as I make up the hours kind of thing, as long as everything gets done. It's game-changing. The house is clean. Dinner's cooked before my wife gets home. Everyone's happy.
Wow.
How good is it? Welcome to the club. Yeah, welcome to the club.
So it's a game changer. Yeah.
See, I'm depressed. I want to go into the office more because I'm stuck at home all the time. I never get to go in because our office is in a different state.
Gets like that after a while, doesn't it? When you want to go back in, but that's a good problem to have when you're where Hayden was before, right? Where you have to be in every day by a certain time.
Yeah.
To have the luxury of picking and choosing. I go in once a week to the office, and it's like a little excursion. It's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy something, or I'm gonna hold out on something really different this week. So recently on YouTube, I've discovered a group called the Sidemen, which I hadn't heard of before, except for last week. And both Kirsten and I have been binging some of their stuff. Some of it is just absolutely awful, but some of it is actually cracks me up laughing. And we watched Avatar the other night. on our date night, which was, to be honest, it is sad, man. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but man, it really, especially like being having a kid now, man, it was hard to keep it together for a lot of that movie. And Kirsten struggled just as much. So by the end of it, we were like a little bit sad, and we put on some Sidemen and started cracking up like pretty quickly. So shout out to Sidemen. Happy to have you on the pod someday if you want to come around. But I'm holding out on them. Some of their stuff is good, some of it, yeah. But yeah, overall, it gave us good vibes. So holding out on the Sidemen this week.
I'm gonna watch that tonight and
just a bunch of
give
boys
you my
having
review.
fun, eh?
Do you
watch the I was gonna say watch they play Among Us together, and that's when, remember I told you a few months ago, Hayden, about how fun it would be if we all played Among Us together. Them playing Among Us is hilarious because they're like trying to stab each other in the back and talk shit to each other. It's really funny.
See, I haven't even seen those ones yet. I've seen
hours of footage.
The one we watched last night was the Cube. They like Sidemen do the Cube. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's like they team up and they got to like solve this puzzle in a cube, which was hilarious because again, same thing. They're just like they struggle to work together, but somehow get it done. And then they also do one that they do real life Tinder profiles, and they go up and they have to like do like a quick quip of like a pickup line, and some of them are stupid, but some of them are actually like ridiculously funny. So would recommend. It's a good laugh, brings your spirits up.
Let's do let's build up towards a season finale Among Us game for the pod.
I've never played.
Special guests. It doesn't matter.
I've never ever played.
We can bring
that's the best part
Johnny
about
three parts. We can bring
the best part about
the Dazzler from
Among
New
Us
Zealand,
from
everybody
Sidemen,
in, and we can have like a huge game.
Okay. How many people
some
can
of
play?
them you can have up to like 10 or 12. You can make the lobby as big or small. I think it's 8 to 12, but like some of them haven't played either when they do it, and that's the funniest ones because they don't know what they're doing. Some of them don't even know how to kill the other person, and then they don't know where they should be lying and when they're supposed to be. It's fun. I think they have their own channel, like Sidemen Among Us now, because there's so much content of it.
Wow. Okay. Well, holding out on them. Thanks for the good videos. After that, I guess that sums it up, guys. Thanks for the episode. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.